So I'm at Baer disc golf course. A hurricane's about to hit, so no one's here. So what I'm gonna do is play all 18 holes as quick as I can, and I'm legit gonna be running. And luckily I have a cameraman who can keep up. Starts when I release this thing. Going into the day, this was not my plan, so I'm wearing Blundstones in this video, which is not the ideal footwear to be running on a disc golf course. And second, this course is a terrible course to be doing this idea. It is extremely rocky, a lot of changes in elevation, and there's some long distances between holes, like this one, for example. This is probably the longest distance between a hole on the whole course, is from hole 1 to 2. And like I said, a lot of rocks, a lot of change in elevation, and that's kind of how this whole course is. And on hole 2 here, I decided to go with a destroyer. I just want to get it up on the hill to the left side. You don't want to be right or hit one of those early trees, and I do exactly that. The other disc I'm using is a Buzz, so I have one stable disc and one overstable disc, just making my options pretty simple for me to make. For me, this was a bit of a tester putt, and I hit basket surprisingly, but I'll be happy with a par here.
2 minutes even.
After most of the holes, you're going to hear my cameraman say the timeout. He started his watch a few seconds before I threw the disc, so it's going to slightly be off what you're seeing in the top right. But also, huge shout out to my cameraman. This is my friend who is in significantly better shape than I am, so he got through this in a breeze. But I'm already dying. I'm only on hole 3, and I am already out of breath. These are some treacherous hills we got to run up and down. This was a putt I probably should have made, but I again hit chains, and I'll just have to settle with a par on this. I mean, even this is like not a gimme for myself, but I do get it. This next hole is one of the worst on the course. If you happen to get it close to the basket, you have a chance at rolling down on either side because it's just propped up on this big hill, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. This is also the only hole I've aced on this course, ironically enough. I tried to play it safe on this, and I thought I was farther up, but I finally see it, and it's way back here. And even for a rushed attempt at a putt, this was an absolutely terrible run. I put myself down to the left, and this is what I'm talking about, how it's kind of propped up on a hill on each side. Now I got a gross putt that if I miss, I drop down a giant hill on the other side, and hey, check that out. I do exactly that. So now I'm running over there, and I'm putting upwards, and this is the death hole. I hate this hole. Luckily, I somehow made that. I almost fall on my ass trying to get up this hill. So I'm happy with a bogey on that hole. That could have gone much worse, so we'll take it. We're 1 over going into a pretty easy hole.
Nice. I
have a really good drive here.
Wow.
It's going to be a little bit of a tester putt, but we'll see how it is once we get up there. So yeah, we get there. It's a little bit of a long putt here. But yeah, I nailed this, and we are back to even through 5.
450.
And now we're on to hole 6, and this is the first one that I hit an early tree. Luckily, this one's a par 4, though, so I can kind of make up with it with a good shot here. Wasn't sure which disc to use. I ended up going with the Buzz. Wrong choice. Hit another tree. And we run over to our disc again. You can see the basket now. I rushed that shot, and it was long and left. And I've set myself up with a difficult putt. I've made a few at this distance today, but unfortunately, this was not one of them. Pretty bummed about that. This is another bogey on the course. We are sitting at 1 over now. This next hole is a pretty straightforward hole, but I tend to hit a tree. Luckily on this drive, I almost ace it. It's a perfect line. I just missed the basket, come up a little short, and roll past it, and we are gonna get the easy birdie on this to put us back at even. Even though this is a pretty short hole, I try to go with my destroyer on this one to try and hit that right side gap and fade into the basket. But unfortunately, I release a little early, but also luckily, I do get hit by a tree, and I drop pretty much dead center of the fairway up here and have a decent look. Long putt. I missed that because I'm trash at putting, and we're going to get a par on this one.
7.5 minutes. 8 holes.
This next hole is probably one of my favorites. You kind of just let gravity do the work. Usually I'd go with an overstable mid-range, but for now we got my buzz and doesn't quite get over enough and goes a little too long, as I would expect with a buzz. And we're in this little goalie ditch thing here, but I nailed this putt for a birdie.
All right, coming on the hardest hole on the course.
So yeah, I don't know if you heard what I said. This upcoming hole is one of the hardest on the course. I hate it.
No dogs at the dog park.
You really have no choice but to break down this par 5 into multiple throws, and it's not an easy one. And on my drive here, I go with the Destroyer, but I release it way too early. I hit an early tree, and luckily I'm in the fairway. This could have gone much, much worse here at the beginning. And I just say, forget about my Destroyer, go with a big buzz flick because I love my forehand. And we get it down there. I'm in the center. The hole is pretty wet. It usually is on this hole. And we are thrown from this puddle, and I choose my Destroyer, and I have a pretty good shot. I get it down there around the bend, which is what I needed to do. And we are going to see what we're looking at. Once I get to this disc, I was a little shorter than I had hoped. I hoped to be a little more left. And then I also just go ahead and completely blow this upshot and put it too early. And now we have a long, long look for par here. And spoiler alert, I'm trash at putting, so I missed that. But we end up with a bogey, which, again, for one of my least favorite holes, I'm not too mad about.
All right, not my best.
10-10.
The time is good.
This next hole, I'm kind of like 50-50 with running the shot over this pond, but for today we're playing it real safe, so I'm just gonna lay it up and clear it on my second throw. It's a par 4, so you kind of break it down again. You lay up, you cross, then you have a birdie look usually, but check this out. I go ahead and say I hate this disc and just throw it right into the water. Luckily it skips and does actually get across. I got super lucky there. That would have completely ruined this video and this hole. So we're across. I thought I had to use the stick to get it, but I actually could see it, and I just kind of bend over and reach in and grab it. It is a water hazard, though. Technically, I should be taking it from the other side of the pond, but we're going to play it from right here with the +1 stroke. So we're shooting our 4th shot now, and I missed that, obviously. That's a crazy putt if I were to make that, and we end up with a second bogey in a row. Not a good string of holes right there, and we're 1 over.
2 in the water. Shooting 4, 5 on that hole. Oh.
So this next one's a pretty easy one for forehand players. You just kind of flick it down there, let an overstable disc stay left and come in right, and that's exactly what I do. This one is in a pretty good spot, and this is pretty much a guaranteed birdie for a good player, but I'm trash, so I end up with a par here. This next hole, I made a video about playing the dumbest hole in America, and that's this one. It's a big right angle. This shot looks wild, as if like I had a terrible shot, but that's one of the best shots you can have on this course. You just go big hyzer and get over this tree to the left, and you'll see where I end up. I am pretty far, so it's a very, very long putt actually, but I'm happy with that. And then check this out. Your boy somehow learned how to putt.
Good shot.
And yeah, let's give you an update on how I'm feeling at this point. I'm feeling like absolute trash. My cameraman is in so much better shape than me, and he is barely breaking a sweat here. I should have taken off this sweatshirt before this round because I am soaked on the inside. And this was a terrible drive, by the way, but I do have this wide open gap, which was incredibly lucky. And we even just run through it. There's such an opening right there. So I got lucky. We're going to save this par somehow because of that opening in that tree line. And we're going on to one of the shorter par 3s on this course. And I say, you know what? This round's been going too good. Let me mess it up. And I do exactly that. I hit this early tree. And then I go ahead and rush this forehand shot with not enough power, and it starts fading a little too far right. Hits another tree. And now we have a long putt for par here. But I obviously missed that because, like I've said a million times, I am not good at putting. So that's an unfortunate bogey. I was even until that short par 3, and now we're going into a slightly longer hole, still a par 3, and I ripped my destroyer here.
That's a good shot.
And I was trying to get it a little longer, but the play I just did was pretty safe. You just kind of throw it into the tree line right here, have it drop down, and I had a decent look at that putt, just a little low on this raised basket. And we're going to end up with another par on this hole. Now that brings us to hole 17. This is one of the hardest holes to get a birdie on, in my opinion, on this course. I honestly think it should be a par 4, but I have a great drive here.
Oh, nice.
That puts me in the center. Usually I hit a tree pretty early because this is a weirdly shaped hole. But now I'm still pretty far away from the hole, even with a pretty good drive. My forehand does put me very close to the basket, though. So this is going to be one of the rare times I have a easy par look. And boom, just like that, I get a par. We are 1 over
18.
going into hole 18.
17:20 on the clock.
And going into this last one, I don't have a lot of confidence that I can get a birdie. It's a pretty far hole for a par 3. I ripped my destroyer again. I just don't think my buzz could have gotten the distance I had hoped for. And I end up getting kind of caught up in these trees over here, which is not a bad idea for this hole. But I rushed this next shot. I used my destroyer to try and get that overstableness to curve it towards the basket, but I hit a tree, kick off behind this rock, and now we have a par putt from inside this bushes behind a rock, and I wank off the top, and I end up getting a bogey here.
1828.
Woo!
Good job.
Wow. I am dead.
1.3 miles.
That's not even a lot of distance. Oh my. That's one of my better scores I've gotten on this
I know, I
course.
think you broke par.
I don't know. There's a few bogeys, but a few birdies. We'll have to run it back and see what the score was. Well, if you watched this long, thank you.